It's Friday, April 5th, 2024. All right, everybody, we have a special guest co-host for this evening, but before I intro that guest, let me do our promotion segment that we do up front. Amazing. Actually, no, I want to talk about this. So we're going to intro the guest first, then I'll talk about the promotion thing because something astonishing happened earlier today. So we'll get to that in a second. Lando is out of town because he's a bum and just doesn't feel like doing a free show with me apparently for a couple weeks. So I said, fine, get out. I can find other people that are just as interesting as you are. And the first one that I've got up lined for this week is a friend of the show who's been on before in a late night capacity, but in this case, he did me a huge favor to step in as a guest co-host. And that is Mr. Ant Pruitt, whose work you can find over at antpruitt.com and whose podcasts and other content you can find at youtube.com/AntPruitt. Model, photographer, podcaster, man about town. What am I forgetting? Clemson superfan. Extraordinarily muscled dude. Am I missing anything? That might be everything. Yes, I think that's probably it.
All of that sounds fine and well, but I'm still waiting on this really special guest co-host you're talking about.
Well, that you are the special guest co-host. Believe me. Yeah.
Nah, bro. Nah.
Oh yeah. No. I am very serious when I say I always appreciate when people, especially people who are busy and doing the amount of work that you're doing, take the time out for this because there is no pay and I'm not bringing you 4 million new followers. I hope I bring you some, but I'm always I'm very lucky. I have a lot of people that when I ask them to do stuff actually are willing to, and not everybody in life has that. So I'm extraordinarily grateful that you would take the time.
It's because you're freaking Joe Esposito. That's why.
That means nothing to anybody. Believe me when I tell you. So normally, this is extraordinary. Normally, the first thing we do in our show is I do a little promotional bit where I give all the support links and everything up front. I used to do it at the end, but people don't make it to the end. You do it up front. And I've given all these different things, and I thought, let me find a single URL, a domain that I can just say, go here, and I can build on my Squarespace site, just all the links. Because it's just a lot easier to have it say, go here, go here. So I'm like, all right, let me go over to Hover. Let me see what there is. Right. And I'm finding some stuff. And I'm like, you know what? The easiest thing to tell somebody, and this is me thinking like a moron. I'm like, what would be great is if somebody says, how do I support the show? If I could say, just go to supporttheshow.com. And I'm like, of course, that's going to be $4,000. I look it up. Nobody has it. Supporttheshow.com. I got it for $1.50. I mean, it'll renew at $14 or whatever. I have supporttheshow.com.
Nice.
Now, when I tell you that is nice. That I could not, I reread it 4 or 5 times to make sure it wasn't misspelled or 1P or, support the shop or support the shoe or something like that. Nope. Supporttheshow.com. So, and now I have to build the page. So this is going to commit me to it. So I have like 4 days. Supporttheshow.com is where you can go for all the support avenues that we take. So I don't have to say Patreon. No. Supporttheshow.com. That URL will be working by the time the show posts in like 4 days.
That's what's up, man. Nice.
Sometimes, folks, just try it because even though you think somebody's got it, maybe they don't. I mean,
especially this day and age, you would think everything's gone.
I mean, that is the most brain dead URL I could think of for somebody to say, here's how you support the show. I mean, it's literally the 3 words that almost everybody says. Almost every podcast at some point says, here's how you can support the show. Almost everybody.
Yeah.
So you would think somebody would have gotten that. So either they dropped it or didn't renew. I don't know. Whatever. That's one of my 2 big URLs that I managed to get. The other was Cyberpunk Radio. I'm thrilled I have Cyberpunk Radio. I don't know what I'm going to use it for, but I've got it. And that's a great name. So whatever. I don't care if it does nothing.
Hold that one, bro. Somebody's going to want it. Hold that.
Well, they can have it for a lot of money because I love it. I love domains. Yeah, that's fine. I don't mind being in the middle of a bidding war. It never happens, so I'll take it if it ever occurs. So I put a little list of topics or topic ideas together that I thought you would be a good person to talk with. Let's start with one I'm sure you have some thoughts on. Now, I apologize if you're going to bring this up on your show. So if you are, we can keep it short. But I was curious on your opinion of Canva buying Affinity. You must have some thoughts on this.
Get this, Joe. I didn't dig into it too terribly much, and I will not be bringing it up on the show. But my initial thoughts are, hey, good on the customer. I'm assuming this is going to be something good for the customer. But again, maybe I am just freaking naive. With Affinity Photo or the whole Affinity suite, I had nothing but respect for it, for their platform. They offered something that was right there with the Adobe Creative Cloud and whatnot, and in some instances better. And they made it without being some silly monthly payment kind of thing. It was ideal for most creators out there, especially those that are trying to get started because they haven't made up all of the money and stuff to be able to afford $50-something a month, like whatever it is I pay now. I don't remember how much I pay, but they get us. You know how it is. Mm-hmm. And when Canva popped in, Canva has a massive market share beyond people that are professional creators. I mean, I hate saying it like this, but normal people have heard of Canva. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they advertise all over the place. I mean, it's hard to actually, it's now, I think they're built into the Libsyn platform, which is what I publish our show through. I think there's a little thing that says, oh, you can do this with Canva. And I'm like, yeah, okay, you can say that.
Wow. See, I didn't even know that. You can say that for the standard
folks. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they just added that.
Wow.
Fairly recently, dude. I want to say. Yeah, there was a little, I mean, they've done a couple of updates to Libsyn, which I've been about 50-50 on. Some of the stuff that Libsyn's doing has me a little concerned because I think it's, I don't know. I think they're pulling a little bit of control away from creators that I think creators should have, but they're also doing things I think that make a lot of sense. And I'm pretty sure I'm actually going into the new episode thing now because I think
is Libsyn battling. I mean, because it seems like a lot of platforms are just in desperation mode too. Do you sense anything like that with Libsyn?
No, I've actually no. I don't think it's anything like that. I think they're following some trends. I don't think it's a concerning thing because they've been around for a long time.
Yep.
And a lot of shows I know do publish through them. So I think that they were lucky to be early in on this with a platform that was very user friendly.
Yeah.
And I think that's their advantage is a lot. And honestly, I'll have to say for myself, I've been using them since 2006. I mean, going almost to 20 years at this point. And maybe in that time, was there 5 instances where they had any issues that affected the show? Maybe not even that many. Mm-hmm. When I've had support issues, they've been very responsive. I have really had zero reason to even consider leaving them. I've looked, of course, because that's smart. You have to look at alternatives just in case. I mean, Tencent could acquire them tomorrow and say, guess what? Get out. So I don't know. But yeah, right here, it says design artwork with Canva. There's a little link right underneath the add episode artwork button now, which was never there before. And that's a direct link into Canva. So they're clearly making.
That's fascinating.
Yeah. So no, I think Libsyn's really good. I mean, I don't know what their pricing is even competitive wise, but I've never even thought about it. Cause like I said, I've got the workflow down and it works. In fact, they sometimes they do things that surprise me. Like they added the YouTube publishing for the show. I don't remember even adding that. I think they just said, "Oh, do you have a YouTube channel?" And I said yes, and it just started publishing it, which I'm not complaining about. But so, like I said, some of the stuff they've had me on a couple of like consultation panels, and I've been very frank with them, and my complaints are minimal. I think my biggest problem with it is I would like to be able to design a better website for the show, but I think nobody cares about that anymore. I think I don't know that people go to them anymore. So
I tend to agree with you. As much as I put time into my website, I decided, you know what, just do just enough so there's something there for search engine purposes, because most people are not going to the website, and when they are, they're usually doing it on their dadgum mobile device, some 4-inch, 5-inch, 6-inch screen, so they're not really seeing enough of it. I don't really put too much effort into my website anymore, other than just making sure it's searchable, and because people will still say, hey, SIRI or hey, GOOGLE, to look up stuff. And, you know, I want to be able to show up there.
Yeah, I still do it because I design stuff, and it's one of these things where it's like screaming at the forest, I guess, where I'm like, I have a nice website. You go look at it. It's, you know.
But
it's
Joe,
fine.
listen, real talk. How many times? Just start asking people outside of your four walls, real people outside of your four walls, and not virtually through a microphone. Ask them when was the last time they went to a website and what that website was, and it's probably something along the lines of, I don't know. I just don't know how many people are going to say they went to a website, because they go to the search engine and then, it points them to the website. But how many just flat out said, hey, I need to go check out so-and-so.com real quick.
Yeah.
I need to do a Google search and then pull it up.
You're right. What I've done is I've just started leveraging my art site and the pages as part of that Squarespace, because that I do need an art site for a gallery. So that is still important, because that's like a portfolio. Even though I have Behance, I also like to have that, because I think Behance is good, but I don't know. Behance, I love Behance. You know that. I mean, I've talked about it. I did a whole stream where I was just wandering through fonts on Behance. I love that site. But there too, I wish I could do more with that to customize it. But I guess, you're right. I look at Behance mostly on my mobile phone too. It's awful, really. I know, I'm old, whatever. I just remember when things used to be pretty, and now it's just all a scrolling feed of, like you said, a vertical. I have a TikTok account now, thanks to you. You said, oh, get on TikTok. So,
bro, you should do TikTok with your skill set and what you bring to the table. It's like, why the hell isn't he on TikTok?
I know. I
don't really need to be on TikTok, but what you bring is definitely TikTok content,
Yeah, I did. I'm actually kind of mystified by, mystified is the wrong word. I guess what I interpreted as how people would do artwork on TikTok was not what I expected. You know what? I didn't think I was going to use my soundboard, but I actually have a perfect sound effect that encapsulates how I react to it. Here we go, everybody. Enjoy this.
The thing about youth culture is I don't understand it.
Yeah, that's it. That's what it is.
Nailed it.
Yep. So I looked at it and I went, okay, I can format something to that. I don't think to me, that's not engaging at all, but if that's what they want, then I'll serve the audience.
Man, I totally feel you on that. There's a lot of stuff that's put out there that's just crazy popular. But it doesn't really look engaging when someone like me or you look at it, but it just, for whatever reason, it holds people's eyeballs, so you're right there in that wheelhouse. You can do this, and I think you will see some decent growth there.
Yeah, I'm gonna start putting the time lapse artwork on there and see how it goes. And then, I know your suggestion about trying to get the 5s down to 60 seconds. I'm gonna try, but it's funny too. Today I had to do 20 takes to get it down to 5 minutes. I did 20 versions of one to get it to 5 minutes. Yeah. Oh, that's not uncommon. I can't. Somebody had said to me a while ago. They said, "Well, why don't you just script it so that you know?" And
that's what I was getting ready to ask. Do you write it?
I can't. No, I can't. I've tried it. It's miserable. Okay. I can't get it to work. My way of talking is to just do it as every 5 that I can think of, and I've done a lot of them at this point, is I hit the record button and I go for 5 minutes and I watch that timer and I have to fit my thoughts into that, and it's the only way it works.
Oh,
Otherwise,
dude, that's impressive.
Yeah,
That's impressive. If you're doing that, just looking at the clock.
Yeah. Yeah. I have this
Dude,
system. I have this really weird system, and it works. And basically I have to say the date. So you hear that date at the beginning.
Yep.
And then I give it a count of 15 and I watch that timer. And as soon as it hits the 15 count, I go. And then I know where my cushion is so that I can wrap up. That's usually what bombs me, is the end, because I can't wrap it up correctly. I've either gotten lost in a thought or the ending just goes on. And literally, I will not publish something that's 5 minutes and 1 second. I can't do it. I would go crazy. So I have to re-edit them down to 5 minutes. And, that cushion allows me to finesse it just enough so that every episode is 5 flat. But that's the only way I can do it. It's just the only way it works.
Man, that is some impressive yet bit OCD-ish shit there, man.
Bit.
That is... I guess having been in those shoes where... You're in a situation, you have a teleprompter there with the script, or you have a teleprompter with your bullet points, or you have just your bullet points on a deck in front of you or something along those lines. And you only got X amount of time and you got to get in, you got to get out.
Yeah.
You doing this pretty much off the cuff and just looking at the clock.
Yeah.
That's impressive, man. That's impressive.
Yeah, it's really just because I don't know how to write to the way that I can speak in 5 minutes. And I think it's this thing where, because I call them daily fives, they have to be 5 minutes exactly, even though nobody has ever said, oh, you're a 5 minutes. I can't do it. It can't be 4:57 and it can't be 5:06. It has to be 5. And so I have to
respect that. I respect that. And as far as the whole writing to where it comes out in your voice to make it 5 minutes, that I get that too.
That's the other trick. Yeah.
It's sometimes we get wordy when we're writing for whatever reason. And I don't know why. I guess we're just built on word count or some shit, but it is difficult. I give you credit for that. But for me, I just do like a really, really rough outline and have a handful of bullet points right there. And then I just go, because I can't just write out a script like that either. And then I just go. That thing that I just recently published on ZD.
I was about to say, speaking of writing,
that
go
thing.
On, please.
So I had to do a video for it. I had to do a reel/TikTok for it. So of course, 60 seconds or less. And that article wasn't no short article, and I still had a whole lot more that I could write. So I started writing. Because it was 60 seconds, I said, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to write a freaking script. And I wrote a script out. And of course, it was longer than 60 seconds when I started reading it, which that's the expectation. But man, just putting that on paper, it really did help me trim the fat and focus. And I got it down to 59 seconds. And it's I don't know when they're going to publish it, but I'm quite proud of it. It came out quite nicely because it's in and I'm out, and my voice is not as monotone as I normally am, but I mean, it's still monotone, but it's authoritative, if you will, Well,
and I think, I think sometimes people actually, I was talking to my wife about this yesterday, the day before, because we had done a show together that just published yesterday, as of this recording yesterday. So Monday of this week. Mm-hmm. And she was concerned about the that, and
Yeah, you got to cut them out.
You know what? Here's the funny part. I actually am anti that now. I have been listening because I realized how often people say that. And I have realized I don't care. If that's going to bother people, that's a natural way of speaking. The only time it concerns me is if it's clear that the person's getting hung up on something, like they can't form a thought, and then I will cut it. I don't want somebody to seem like they're stuttering. But
see, that's the most of the time when I hear it, it doesn't sound like they're prepared. Because you're right, it is a natural way of speaking for someone to say and pause. But if you're doing a presentation and every other word is and your voice is doing that vocal fry thing, it comes off as if you did not take the time to prepare to hold my attention. You know what I mean?
Well, I agree that it's not a universal. So yes, if it's supposed to be something that seems formatted and prepped, then yes, you want that as clean as possible.
Yeah.
So I agree. I'm not saying this is all the time, but when I've heard a lot of the shows I listen to are just people having conversations.
That's different. Yeah.
That's the thing. So that was what this was. I'm like, well, we're talking about Beverly Hills 90210. Is anybody really going to be concerned if you're repeating words here? I don't think this is the format where people are going to get nitpicky. We're talking about Beverly Hills 90210, one of the most ridiculous soap opera shows that's ever been. So it's fine. But yeah, you're right. If you're doing a professional review or something like, well, that's a completely different type of thing. And that's much like in writing. One of my hang-ups with writing is when people repeat words really, really close together. So if they say, for instance, I had this camera. For instance. Okay.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Man.
There's that, and then there's also what you see on a lot of blogs nowadays. I don't even know if they're actual journalistic sites, but they'll report a story. The reporter is writing the story. They may have their opening paragraph, and the second paragraph leads out very similarly to how the opening paragraph leaned out. And it's like, why are you saying this all over again?
And that feels to me like they had a short form one for a different format and they just left it in or something that they were trying to condense it. Yeah, that's one of the areas where, for example, taking a 5 and condensing it, that's someplace where I could see a machine tool helping me, where I do the 5, feed all that text into something and say, all right, take my words and make a 60-second or so version of it. And then I read that in my own voice. And that would make sense, because I just don't know that I just don't know I have the capability. But I know what you mean, where there's blogs like that where they repeat things a lot.
Like, dude, stop.
And not people that don't have writing ability too. It's strange where it pops up. It's almost, did an editor do something to this? Because it's strange sometimes. It's very off-putting. It doesn't read correctly at all.
Right. It never reads correctly. And I'm like, why are you doing this? Stop doing this to yourself.
Yeah, it's bizarre. But speaking of reviews, like the ones you're doing for ZDNet, one thing that I think in one of your, I don't remember if it was one of the Everyday People podcasts, which you should go listen to in whatever RSS ingestion machine you use. So go look for it. It's Everyday People Doing Everyday Shit. I will have a link, of course, to it. And I don't remember if it was on that or if it was on one of your office hours where we were talking about the fact that too many of these review sites are doing short form reviews where they've had it for 2 weeks or a month and they don't.
Dude,
it's not a review.
No. Not even for 2 weeks. They've had it for 2 days, 3 days. Yeah. And I can't stand that. And the thing is, there is a lot of pressure with quote unquote wanting to be first. I get that. It sounds like somebody's home. Sorry about that. If you hear that,
that's fine.
It is a lot of pressure for the creators, because the PR people, I don't know if you've been on any of those PR lists, but they send email after email after email after email. Hey, you gonna check that out? Hey, you gonna publish this today? Hey, you gonna publish this tomorrow? No, wait a minute. You can't publish it tomorrow because the embargo is 2 days from now. So you are gonna publish it on the embargo day, right? And over and over and over again. And a lot of creators that are brand new to the game or haven't been in the game very long, they're trying to stay in good graces with those PR people, because they're trying to say, all right, they're going to hook me up down the road, next year when something comes out. So they will pressure themselves to quote unquote review something in 2 days. And that's just wrong. And you can see, if you go to YouTube in particular, when the new iPhone lands in people's hands or what have you, YouTube will suggest 95% of the videos to be about the freaking quote new iPhone that somebody just got today, and they're doing a review as if they've had it for weeks. And I'm like, that's not a review. It's just stop. And they're all sort of stumbling and saying the same thing, and it really does eat at me. And one thing that I appreciated about Twit was, we would do reviews, but there was never any pressure of trying to be first. And that was right up my wheelhouse, because I just don't like the idea of just getting the whole new hotness and just showing it off, because that's all you're doing is just showing off. Hey, I got it. You're not adding any kind of value for the people consuming your content at that time, other than saying, I got it and you don't. You know what I mean?
No, I agree. One of the things I've said to Michael Fisher, I think he's going by Michael Fisher now and not Mr. Mobile as much. I think he's trying to do a rebrand type of thing. But he does, okay, this device, he does them early on where he says, I've had it for a couple weeks. But then he does, okay, 6 months, or a year with. Yeah. And there's that, I think, is a really good model. Okay, fine.
Sure,
for people who are just want to know about it right away, give them that. When I do that stuff, I call it impressions. I don't call them reviews. I think it's a better word for it to say, this first is not a review. Right. Or something like our first look or early impressions, whatever. And then do something to follow up later to say, this thing is holding up or it's not. Because depending on what it is, I mean, certainly in the early days of Android phones, 6 months to a year was a different phone than when you bought it, because those things rotted. They were awful.
Yeah.
Apple stuff tends to hold up better, but even so, what if they do an update 6 months from now and it borks your signal or whatever? Do you not want to know that? These are important things. Or they change features or reorganize some of the stuff, not that I want to get into an anti-Apple thing, but I could, because the way they start changing up their interface, it just unbelievable, man. Just shove stuff around and go, we know better. No, you don't. You don't. Yeah. It's my phone, damn it. But
nice try, Apple.
I mean,
I give Marques Brownlee credit, because of course he's one of the people on the planet that gets the stuff early, and when he doesn't get it like super early, his videos will say, this is my first impressions, and he'll talk about it for 10 minutes or what have you, but he doesn't really go into all of the nuts and bolts of it, the way some people would want. But he's up front, says, look, this is my first impressions. I've had it for a week or whatever, but it wasn't ready for production just yet, because I've only had it for a week. So let me tell you what I saw. This is what they've announced and what you can expect to see. And then I'll get back to you later with a full on review.
Yeah, and there's the benefit of the fact that he commands such a large audience. I think he can do that, where, as you said, there's a lot of pressure on people who are smaller. The only way that, and that's a byproduct as well of a really, really awful algorithmic surfacing system that almost all these platforms seem to have. I mean, I don't know any of them that are really as good. Different ones have been around for a different amount of time, but certainly YouTube. It's not like Google just showed up last week and started doing videos. At this point, this thing should be working better. There should be more of a assessment of the quality of things. I know they get flooded, but I don't have sympathy for billion-dollar companies. I don't have sympathy for it. Find some way to do it. You have the engineering talent. It's crazy.
Stop showing me shit. Show me, quality content. It's always the stuff with the weird freaking thumbnails too.
Oh yeah, the big bold. This is the one thing about. Okay.
I hate those thumbnails. The most I do with my thumbnails that on my podcast with Queen Pruitt is if I catch her making some type of expression, be it a laugh or just sort of rolling her eyes at me, I put that on there. But it's never staged. Most thumbnails on YouTube are staged, and sure they grab the attention of what have you. That's what they should do. But it's leading you straight into some pretty craptastic content, some pretty craptastic videos that offer nothing but a pretty thumbnail. And I hate that.
Yeah, and that's where it's counterintuitive, because it now makes me, when I see those thumbnails, I don't even bother. I don't even buy it.
I'm the same. I don't look on them. I haven't looked at, there's a channel I used to enjoy. I'm not going to say their name here. Photography channel, pretty much a veteran, and I stopped 2-3 years ago, I guess, because their thumbnails were starting to do that and be all staged, and then they have these weird ass titles. Canon with a big no-no, or Adobe with a big no-no, and just And I'm like, oh boy, here we go. And then you listen to it, and it's, Adobe updated Creative Cloud and forces you to put your consent in to use your data in their AI. They didn't force you. I mean, it was just stuff like that. And I'm like, no, man.
That's stunt bait, click whatever lines or whatever. Yeah, unfortunately, that's. And I really would be genuine. I mean, there's no way we're ever going to know. They'll never tell us this. But I would be very curious how much that actually pays off, because I just don't think that people stick with that. You end up just bouncing from one thing to another, and there's no way a channel can grow that way. It just can't.
Well, if they're a big enough channel, it's still going to pay them, because they have pretty high CPM rates.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, so a large channel that commands an audience, they're going to be pretty much bulletproof, unless one of the people on a channel suddenly comes out as an abuser or something. Otherwise, they're never going to get hit with anything. They're fine because they command this kind of critical mass thing where if you see, they have 5 million subscribers, they must be doing something right, even if you don't watch the video. I'm going to subscribe because they must.
Yeah.
There's that problem. That's kind of an inertia thing, or you can't really get away from that. But I would be curious on smaller channels that don't have that, are the ones with the really outrageous titles or whatever in there, are they really performing over the long term better than channels that are making quality material? I would bet they're not, but you keep seeing them. And I think I fault the algorithm for that.
Yeah.
It has to be where it is. But
I've never had a problem with the algorithm, but what you're bringing up is definitely a good point that I never really thought about. Because when I think of the algorithm, I think about what it's suggesting to me, and it does a good job. But if I open up YouTube not signed in, and the shit that I see on the screen, you're describing it perfectly.
It's awful. I mean, it really is off-putting. I mean, and I'm sure that's because they want you to sign in, because then they can get all the stuff about you. So don't get me wrong, they're not stupid. They know what they're doing.
Right.
But you mentioned Adobe, and I wanted to bring something up because I'm curious on your thoughts of this. We discussed a little, I think, on probably Twix, which is what I'm calling that site now because I think it's hysterical. Because it's a mix of the two names. Because I will not call it by its stupid new name, because I won't.
It's X. He paid for it. He got something to pay for it, so he owns it, and he calls it X, and I respect that. I ain't gotta like it, but that's what he calls his platform.
Well, on a site of some kind, I assume it was that one, but I don't honestly remember, or if it was on a back channel thing. But we were talking about the fact that Max is in Miami for this year.
Yeah.
And I don't think I did a 5 on this, but I was probably meaning to and forgot, because things fly out of my head like dandelion, whatever is floating in the wind. But,
ADD much?
Yeah, very much. But the thing that I didn't, and not to bring politics specifically into it, but as a wise woman once said, wait, where is it? I had the clip. Come on. Oh, I'm a moron. Whatever. I had it somewhere where it was something about how everything is politics when you break it down far enough. I cannot believe I don't have that friggin' thing. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So it's going to be in Florida, because Miami is in Florida. For those who are terrible in geography like me, in case you didn't know, Miami is in Florida. And Florida is a state having a lot of political upheaval. We'll say it that way. We'll leave it on the surface like that. It's a hotbed of political activity at the moment. I think that's a fair thing to say. And it's interesting that Adobe, a company that advertises and I think legitimately supports a lot of inclusivity and a lot of creators and a lot of really diverse backgrounds, is going to be in that state, because I think some people could read that. And again, I'm sure there's reasons they're going there. I mean, in Miami is a beautiful city, so there of course is that. But it is interesting that they are going out there where there's a lot of things going on that some people might think are hostile or unfriendly towards the type of people that Adobe generally supports. I haven't seen anything on that, but I just happened to think about it the other day. I was curious if you think that Adobe will have any type of response from that. I haven't noticed any.
Nope.
Okay, so I guess no. Okay.
No, and several people brought that to my attention. And the thing is, it never it never crosses my mind, because this whole country is full of pockets of political bias. Everywhere you go, there's some form of a political bias. That's how we operate in this, quote, democracy. And for Florida to be the so-called hotbed of political upheaval or what have you, last I checked, Walt Disney World was still there. They ain't going nowhere. And people are flocking to get to Disney World.
That's true.
In the middle of freaking Central Florida. It's not on the coast of Florida. It's not at the tip of Florida. It is smack dab in the middle in Orlando, Central Florida. So Adobe going to Miami, I didn't dig it because it's just further away from me geographically, but I'm happy that there's people on that East Coast that will be able to have access to be able to attend the show a lot easier than trying to come across the country like I've done for the last couple of years. And far as the whole policy side of whatever, Adobe, yeah, they have always come off as a, quote, inclusive company and brand. I don't think that changes just because they did a show in Florida. I think what matters here is, we can get some more people buying tickets that are new, that are different. It's probably going to come back the next year and the next year, or spend some more money on this other project that we're working on. Dollars and cents. That's all I see.
It could also be that Adobe is looking to say, hey, we have a presence here and this is what we support, so we don't care. And there is another side to that, and that's kind of the Apple engagement theory, which I think is an interesting one, to say, well, if we're just not there, we have no input whatsoever. But if we're there and I'll be very curious what the language is in the keynotes. I'm going to be very interested to see what they're saying and what wording they're using, because
it'll be something, right on the tip of the nose, because they're always pretty self-aware of reading the room, if you will.
Oh yeah, no, I don't think they're going to come out and they're not going to come out and suddenly set the state on fire. They're not fools. But I wonder if there will be. I'm always curious, because, as you said, ultimately what this comes back to is money. That's what it all is.
Yeah, that's it.
Money for the state and money for Adobe, and both of them, if there's a financial interest, that will trump anything else. Exactly. I didn't mean to use that. Was not a pun, everybody. Sorry. I literally just thought of that word, so I wasn't trying to inject anything there subliminally, although I did find my clip.
Well, everything is political.
So there you go. And I can't believe I had a Kathy Gellis clip and didn't deploy it properly. Anyway, it's interesting to me, though, that you said that other people have mentioned that. So it is something. I thought maybe I was just out on the fringe of things, because I often am. And I was like, oh, maybe I'm just reading too much into this, but that's interesting.
And this is where I'm going to piss some people off. I've had people say, yeah, I have friends and family that live in Florida. Sorry, I backed off the mic. I have friends and family that live in Florida, and they are doing everything they can to get out of there because it's not been kind to them. And I'm like, yeah, I get that. I'm not in Carolina anymore because, quite frankly, at the time, I thought white folks was getting a little too cocky over there. I did. And somebody was going to get hurt if I stayed over there, So I get that. But I think we as a society, we're putting way too much on these companies when they are not people. We're trying to personify these big companies and these big brands. They're not people. At the end of the day, they are answering to their shareholders. And the only way you can really, do something about these big companies and big brands is stop paying for their stuff. You boycotting them by not going to Adobe Max. Sure, that's great. Did you cancel that subscription?
Yeah. Because if you didn't, then you've done nothing.
Right.
Because they don't care. No, I am in total. I don't think there's anything that anybody's going to be pissed off. That's. I've said that this thing many times is one of the things that is the most disturbing observation I can make about people is when they talk about companies as if they care about them. Just
Right.
because they've not pissed them off yet. But that's
They don't
yet.
give two shits.
No. When these people are like, oh, no, this is a good company, then that's when I want to pull this one out.
Wrong, sir.
No. Mm-mm.
Right. No. Yeah, that's... No, I agree. It is, and not to pick on Apple people, because I have I have multiple, I depend on my iPad. Actually, one of the things that irritates me about the iPad is that there is no competitor for it. The whole thing about don't trust the company too much. One of my major concerns, and I've said this before, is I don't like that there's nothing as good as the iPad. That bothers me because that gives Apple way too much control over me because I don't have an alternative to this thing and I do everything on it. And
Not yet.
Not yet. And that's when when people are like, no, Apple, they really care. They only care until they start losing dollars. Trust me when I tell you, these people would burn their mothers in a furnace if it would make their shares go up 10%. There is no chance they care about you.
Yeah. When was the last time Apple said, we're done going to China?
Right. Yeah. And this
I'll
that
wait.
point. Yeah. You're going to be waiting until the end of time because that is one of the things that I find is people are very odd to me because I don't know when that happened, when people started making companies into people, when they started anthropomorphizing companies because
Bad idea.
it's not that. No, it's terrible. And don't trust the company.
I promise you, as soon as you let that go, man, you'll be at peace. You'll just be so free. Because people will have the audacity to look at you because you have on a pair of Nikes because Nike supported so-and-so. And they'd be like, well, what?
Yeah.
Nike's about profit.
Right.
You're shooting with a freaking Canon camera. Yeah. Because Canon's about profit, and Canon's been very upfront about that,
Well, that... as we're basically saying, which is that's what these companies are about. If a company is in business, it's in business to make money. Yeah. And so ultimately, that's the first obligation is their money coming in? There was a news item about Discord is now going to start putting some type of limited ads into their stuff. And of course, a lot of people are... And I think it is a fair thing to say, okay, well, now we know where this is going to end up. And you're right, because it's limited today, but they're going to get a taste of that ad money, and they're going to keep doing it. It's not going to recede unless, of course, people really start canceling all their Nitro subscriptions. Then maybe. But otherwise,
I wonder how much people are spending on Nitro.
You know what? This is the irony of it. I started a Nitro sub, I want to say 6 months ago, because this is exactly the thing. I had this thought. I'm like, oh, if nobody's buying these things, they're going to have to start. They're either going to have to sell to another company, or they're going to start doing these ads. So people better start supporting it, because I think look, companies have to pay employees. They have to be able to show a profit. I'm sorry, This is economics, and I'm a dummy, and I can understand that this is economics. That's how it works. So if something is free all the time, and you don't see that there's a problem with it being free all the time, you need to read a book about something, because that's
or stop
not
being
how,
a crook.
Well, there's that. Yes. So either there's something going on under the table, which is but it's still a way to make money. Let's not pretend that's not a business transaction. It certainly is. It's just not a sanctioned one. But that's the thing is, as you and I have talked about at different points, you have to support the things that you want to stick around. Yeah. If you don't, they won't. They have to figure out how to survive. And I wish we lived in a world where good intentions and positive thinking got things done. Believe me, I don't like being a cynical bastard. I just am one, because that's the world I live in. And this is why, because people want everything to be free. And there is a problem, though. Mm-hmm. I would guess you'll agree with this. There is a problem where with everything being subscriptions, nobody can afford everything.
That's true.
If everything is a sub, there's going to be some kind of limit. It can't go on forever. I mean, even I'm looking
That's
at
true.
Patreon and going, okay, at some point I can't support even people I like because
That's true.
I won't be
You
able
get
to pay
subscription
bills.
fatigue. Yeah, you get subscription fatigue. And again, that's still economics. You know, people have to make decisions. What value does this give me?
Right.
You know, and sometimes that hard decision is going to be, I need to cut off this creator. It happens. That's life. That's economics, you know.
And some of that is the problem where people had this perception that everything was free, and it was for a while. That should never have been. That created this expectation that there was no cost to
Daily
anything.
5 that I listened to. I think it was your Daily 5 I listened to, and I'm like, somebody gets it, because they were maybe it was you talking about the free internet and so on and so forth.
That was
and
me.
Yeah, we can access the internet, quote unquote, for free. No, it's not free. You pay your freaking cable provider or whatever your internet provider is to access internet. You are accessing these websites that are running on servers that have to have hard drives. You didn't pay for that. Somebody's got to pay for that. So more than likely it's coming through some ad subscriptions and whatnot, and free Wi-Fi at Starbucks. You didn't give them your credit card to pay for that Wi-Fi, but boy, they got your credit card for that Starbucks points plan and all your other little spending habits and stuff. So we as a society need to do better at critical thinking when it comes to stuff like this. You know.
Yes. No argument. That's my point. Was free does not mean no cost. Those are two different words. And when you use them as one, you're just deceiving yourself. Yeah. Somebody has to back this stuff up. And that I think there was this early idea that everything is free. And of course, some of it was always because they were collecting information on us. That was the dirty secret for a lot of it was, oh yeah, we're collecting every single search that you make. We're putting that in a database. We are forming an idea of who you are to be able to weaponize ads later, which is what targeted advertising is.
Yep.
And that's not necessarily an evil thing, because if it's a free service, somehow that has to get paid for.
Has to get paid for. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, you don't get electricity for free. It's like nothing is free, and electricity is the foundation of all this stuff. Electrons, electronics, that's all comes from electricity. So at the very least, somebody's got to pay a power bill. And if you ain't doing it, somebody is. So, yeah, it's... I don't know, but the subscription fatigue is the other side of it, because I do think there's going to be some type of tipping point where you're going to see even services and companies that you thought were in really solid shape. There's going to be a limit to this stuff. People will finally just not be able to afford it. You know, at some point you have to be able to live, and that living doesn't mean I canceled Netflix. I was like, no, can't do it. Done. Well,
we did have a Netflix price increase over the last couple of years. There's a reason for that. There's a reason for that. You know, their bills. They got bills too.
They also shotgun content so much.
Yeah, and they pay people $50 million and shit like that, like it's nothing. So, yeah. You know, don't get me wrong. I love Shonda Rhimes and what she has done as a creator, what she has done for the Black female community. Netflix signed a big ass check to her. Good on her. But as soon as that happened, I was like, oh boy, I know who's going to pay for this one.
Yeah.
The content's good now. Don't get me wrong. Her content's good. But yeah, that is a direct correlation right there. Is $50 million and then the price goes up in the same year.
Well, I will repeat my advice to people is just subscribe for a month, watch the thing, and then cancel it. By all means, watch stuff by the creators you like, because they will see that, but then stop paying for it if you're not using it. That's another end, is we've just become used to paying every month, even if you're not really using it.
That's true.
I actually re-upped myself to watch 3 Body Problem, because I went, okay, this is getting really good reviews, so I'll pay for a month to watch it.
Man, you know, that freaking series and book, I would have never been interested in it, but sometime last year, Mr. Jammer B brought up 3 Body Problem for a book review or book club. Sorry, book club. And he's explaining this to me, and I'm like, wait, what? No, wait a minute. Go back. Wait. No, dude, we're not doing that. I'm not signing off on that book for the book club. You going to expect me to read that? And then when I heard that it was coming to the screen, I'm like, there's no way I'm going to watch that based off the way he described it, the way he described the books. Yeah. Did you read the books?
No, because the nonlinear thing didn't bother me. I've read books that are out of sequence. They're not always fun, but I've done it. But the thing that concerned me is I kept seeing, well, understand this is a translated text. This is not really written as a natural language book. So I was like, oh, well, let me look up a chapter and read it. And it wasn't bad, but it almost had a sterile feeling to it. It felt like machine translation. And I thought, I don't know if I can put up with that and jumping around. That might be too much for me. Even for me, that might be a limit. And so
that says a lot because you watch some weird shit.
Well, I watched the show, but same as you, I saw the show came out and I went, okay. And I saw the reviews, and a lot of the reviews were very positive. And I was, reading between the lines on what they liked about it. And a lot of them were saying it's very strong characters. And I'm like, okay, wow. I will put up with a lot if the characters are, if I care about these people, then I'll let a lot go. So did you watch any of it, or you haven't watched any of it yet?
I didn't even bother, bro.
Okay.
I just remember him describing trajectories of this and that and this, all of this space science stuff that just, if you don't care about space, you're not going to understand this language.
Well, hard science fiction is hard sci-fi can be very difficult. I can't pretend I can get through all of it. I've given up on certain books. Neil Stephenson's Anthem, I believe.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. When there's an appendix, I generally check out. And I love Stevenson's early stuff, but he got really into the details and the weeds of all, and that's fine. I'm not saying that's bad. In fact, I respect his intelligence, and it is well written. But there was a point where I was like, okay, I failed math a couple times. I can't keep up with this. This is not my brain. You give me pictures. Put pictures and maybe I can follow you, but no.
I give credit, and I will say it here. Mr. Stevenson, I'm not smart enough for your books.
No, I agree. I'm the same way. Yeah. Early stuff is very followable. I love Snow Crash, my favorite science fiction book, period, full stop. I love it.
Yeah. Everybody loved that book.
Almost not the same author to read the modern stuff. The only one I could get through of the modern stuff was Seven Eyes or Seven Eves, whatever it was. That one I felt like he was dumbing it down. I'm like, oh, okay, this is Cliff Notes of his other books, so I can make it through this. And I like that. I thought that book
was it
good.
Termination Shock that we did in the book club. I think it was Termination Shock.
So yeah,
that was hard. Now, granted, I did go back and finish it after we talked about it in the club, but bro, it was just too much. Just like, dude, you need an editor. So I was thinking you need to trim some of this fat.
Yeah. So the series for Three Body Problem is definitely lightweight in terms of they go through some equations, but it's relatively, to me anyway, it's pretty simple stuff.
Okay.
Because I am not a you could explain string theory to me and I'll nod along and I'll get it while you're saying it. It will pass right out of my brain 5 minutes later. I can't follow. I am not a physics person. And they keep that simple enough. And because it's visual, it's a lot easier too, because you're seeing what they're talking about. That is hugely beneficial. Reading it is not seeing it. And so when you see them in these big things that they're explaining and it's moving, you're like, oh, okay, got it. I don't necessarily need to remember the equation, but I understand the concept of, because the three body problem is a physics thing. And so when they're showing the three suns moving in these weird orbits, you can follow it because it's visual. And so it becomes very clear what they're getting at. You know what I mean? That's okay. I think that's why I think the series for me, I'm like, oh, and I finished it about an hour ago, right before this actually. And there were, I think there were,
dude. You're
there were parts. Trooper. I'm not going to say it's a perfect series. There are very few perfect series. There are definitely things about it where I went, okay. You know, there's some trappings of modern television in there that I was less than thrilled with, but they write a set of characters that are very different in their personalities, but they make sense as being friends. And it does get to the point where you are actually concerned about them, and losses have weight. And when a series can achieve that, when I'm actually reacting to a character being injured or killed on the screen, then they've accomplished something.
That's good.
Yeah. So I would say the book should not put you off the series. I think the series and the series, I believe, covers like the first and part of the second book. So they condensed a lot. They excised a lot. I don't care about spoilers. So I went through and I read the plot for all 3 books. I know it all the way to the end. I don't care. It doesn't bother me. It doesn't affect anything. I can know the twist of every single thing. If it's a well-made thing, I'm still going to enjoy it. It just doesn't bother me. Mm-hmm. So I was following. I'm like, okay, they changed that. They changed that. Oh, okay. Interesting. All right. This character's now this. Okay. Got it. Yeah. All right. This makes sense. And they changed enough that I think people that even read the book based on the plots that I read, and they were pretty detailed. I mean, the Wikipedia for those books is pretty long for a book summary. I don't think the changes will infuriate people. I don't think you've destroyed the book. They won't do that. Mm-hmm. But it also allows it where if you know the story front to back, there are differences that would be interesting, I think, for people who read the book. So I think people, because I know there's people who are hardcore, you have to adapt the book exactly. Guess what? Give that fantasy up.
Never happening, bro.
God, and it shouldn't happen. There's a reason why these are different mediums. Writing exists in your mind.
Yeah.
It's just not the same thing. So it's like when people get crazy about Dune. And I was like, I've read the 2 Dune books, man. I don't mind that they change things. Please grow up. If you're that wrapped up in it, just keep reading the book. Don't ever watch it.
Yeah, don't even watch it. That's what I don't understand. Most of the people that are saying that stuff, they keep falling for it. they keep going.
It's Charlie Brown the football, man. I don't get it. Yes, it's baffling to me. When people say the term hate watch, it automatically makes me go, okay, your intelligence rating just went down 1.
Oh, man,
you're spending your limited time on this spinning ball that could be destroyed by an asteroid next week, and you're watching something you don't like. Who dropped you? Who dropped you, and on what surfaces? How many stairs did you get dropped down to get to that point where you're hate watching? Please give me a break. Enjoy stuff, everybody. Enjoy stuff. It's a better way. Now, you reminded me of something else, because I had recommended a movie which I know Queen Pruitt won't watch because there's subtitles, which...
And the thing is, Joe, it sounded good.
It's very good.
It sounded good, but damn it, why do you have to...
Can I tell you, I spent like 2 days looking to see if anyone had done an English dub of it that I could actually pull the audio and provide for you in some way. Nobody's done it. It's too obscure. It's Dutch feminist films are not going to get the same attention as Dune. It's just the way of the world, man. I do it myself if I could do a female voice with any type of quality. I would just do it myself, but I'll never do it.
Wow.
And there's a part of me that's sad about it because I think her perspective would be so interesting. That thing has such an interesting set of... It presents you with where you have to form a perspective on something. And in particular, there is a black female character, and the way that character is utilized, I'm so interested in. I can't interpret that character. I can't do it. But there's looks, it's almost a silent part, but I'm like, there's something going on there. And I know the right person would recognize it. I can't do it. But I understand subtitles. It's fine. I'm going to let it go.
It's funny when you were describing it and she's listening to your description, her face lit up.
I saw
her face lit up.
And then it fell. And then it said, it's subtitle. And she went, oh man, I knew it. Like I said, look, I understand. It's not for everybody. Much of what I watch is not for everybody. But I have a different recommendation that is in English language. I believe it's on Prime that you can watch it. I think it's included. Okay. And I think in this case, the perspective that will be interesting that, again, I can't have is a parenting one. Because I saw that you posted a quote from, I believe, Eddie Murphy about put your kids first. And yeah.
Yeah, he says, I believe he says, if I make a decision with my kids first, I'm going to be okay. It's something like that. Now
yeah, something like that.
Because it was great. It was great. And that's been heavy on my brain. Sorry for talking off the mic again, but that's been heavy on my brain because we've had some stuff happening and popping up and whatnot here recently, which we'll discuss on our show. this week. The quote is, "I realize that if you put your children first, you never make a bad decision." That's from Eddie Murphy. And he's got 10 kids.
And
Okay.
there was a synchronicity to that quote appearing the day we're doing this show, because one of the things I wanted to bring up is a movie called Aporia, Aporia. I don't know what that word means. It probably has a meaning. But it's specifically, I thought it's a very small, independent film. I think it's only maybe 90 minutes, so it's short, all English. But in particular, there is an aspect of that is that a parent, I think, would have a very strong reaction to in terms of making a decision on something. And I would be fascinated what you and Queen Pruitt would think of that, because I thought it was excellently made. I mean, there's a number of things it gets into, but in particular, in the second half, there is stuff that comes up with a child, and they have to make some difficult decisions. And I thought,
you suck. You suck. Don't do that. No. No.
I will say it's not going to bum you out. I don't think. The ending is open to some interpretation, which I know some people have a struggle with, but it's not inscrutable. You won't be like, wait. I think it leaves it to you to bring something to it. So, but I don't want you to think that it ends with a dead kid or something. It's not like that. It's not something like that. I wouldn't set people up for that. I would warn them at least that, hey, you got to be in for, but it does present an interesting thing to consider for the parents. And I think anybody watching it to say, would I make this same decision?
Yeah.
Something, I don't have kids, so I know what I think, whether they did right or wrong, but I'm not a parent. I don't know what that parenting decision would be. And that's where one of the reasons I suggest these weird, wacky movies a lot of times is sometimes because I just want people to watch weird, wacky shit that I enjoy. There is that. I can't pretend that's not the case. I would like to think I'm not the only wackadoo walking the planet, right? But there are also these movies that I think there's a lot of Michael Bay. That's fine. I want to see cars explode. Hey, I love stuff blowing up. I love it.
Anamorphic lens.
All that stuff's fantastic. I have no issue with it. Enjoy it. I don't mind popcorn flicks. I watched From Dusk Till Dawn, and honestly, my favorite part of the movie is that Salma Hayek does a striptease.
Oh,
I'm not going to pretend it's other. Oh yeah,
Salma Hayek's in that.
Salma Hayek is in that.
Stop the presses.
See. I can throw a bone to the populist crowd just as well as everybody else, but then I also like to say, here's a movie that lets you have to think a little bit. Now, there are movies like Stalker.
I looked up. You said it's Aporia.
RIA. Yeah, Judy Greer is the name I remember. I don't
I see it now. I just pulled it up. And
I don't know who plays the husband. He's great, but I don't know. I didn't recognize him. I felt like I should, but I didn't recognize him off the top
Eddie. I've seen him too. He's great. He was in that X-Men TV series, not X-Men TV series. Like the Avengers TV series back in the days.
Oh,
on ABC.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? Is that where he's from?
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. He was in that. He was pretty good in that.
That's why I recognize him. Okay. Yeah.
But
he's
great.
He's great.
The word aporia, an expression of real or pretended doubt or uncertainty, especially for rhetorical effect.
Oh, okay.
Does that
makes
mean anything?
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah,
Okay.
Because the central thing of the movie is there's moral decisions that have to be made at several points. And a lot of it is considered in theory, and then they have to decide whether. No, I think honestly, I think that unlike some of my other recommendations, I think you will get a lot out of this one. I mean, American Fiction was kind of an easy one because everybody said that was good. So I'm not revealing any mystery of the universe by saying, hey, the movie that everybody else says is great and should get an Oscar, that's really good. Duh. That's not a recommendation. You know what I mean? That's not me going, oh, here's something you never heard of. This is under the radar-ish. It's not as well known.
And it is on Hulu.
Okay, Hulu. Then.
For
I thought it was
asking.
on Prime. So yeah, worth seeing. I did a review of it. Don't listen to it if you haven't seen it yet, because I play clips and I go through the whole plot because I was like, no, this is worth talking about. Because Lando won't watch.
Did you mention it on a 5?
I did. I did a short review, which is a spoiler-free one. I'm sure it was glowing because that movie sat with me for a few days, kind of like the subtitled one too, where that subtitled one, I got to tell you, I woke up and I thought about something from that and it clicked and I went, I figured something out.
Well, next in my queue is Good Riddance April Fool's Day.
Yeah, so I reviewed it back on December 20th, 2023. Yeah, so it is there, spoiler free. Yeah. So I'm not going to pretend that my computer just didn't crash. And it's not going to say anything, but my computer completely decided to flip out for some reason and lock itself up. I don't know if I clicked something, whatever. So it'll be seamless, but I don't hide anything because what's the point? So yeah, I was trying to look up that show, and I guess the website said, nope, wreck your Mac. But yeah, I really liked that one. I thought that one stuck with me for a while because, and Lando doesn't watch a lot of stuff. He doesn't have time. He has kids, and he just doesn't have the time for a lot of the stuff. And a lot of stuff he has to watch is with his kids. So a lot of the stuff I talk about, he's not going to watch with his kids because it's too warped for young minds. I mean,
of course.
But that was one where I told him, I said, if you ever have the chance, you should watch this with your wife because your parents, and you will see this very differently than I do. And that's one thing I do enjoy is finding a movie where I know that I'm not getting everything. I love movies that won't just spoon feed me what I already know. I want them to not all the time. I mean, I like stupid movies too, but I do like movies that say, yeah, you're not going to get all this. You can get some of it, and you might read part of it from your life experience, but somebody else is going to see this radically differently because they have a completely different background. And I think movies like that are really interesting, and I try to, I agree with you on that.
Different perspectives.
Yeah, if there was more of that, the world would be I'm not going to sing, but yeah,
Thanks for not
benefit.
Singing.
You're welcome. The world would benefit greatly if there was more of people seeing things a little bit differently. Again, not to delve into hippy dippy stuff, but but yeah, Poria was a good one. That Poor Things was good too, but that's a psychotic flick.
I listened to your 5 again on that, and I can't remember how I got it. Was it a rental or something? But I have it downstairs, and I started watching it on my own. Yeah. And I said, no, I should probably wait because didn't No Girl get like the Best Actress award?
Yeah, and I had said I didn't realize that the nominations, I think, were out the day I published it or the day after. So I didn't even, I don't pay attention to the Oscars. I don't care. So I didn't really look at that. But
I don't either. But for whatever reason, I knew that shit. You know what I'm saying? So it must have been something noteworthy about it. So that was the only reason I gave that movie a shot. I heard her name, and then I happened to hear your Daily 5, and I was like, all right, I'll give it a shot. And I started it, and I only stopped it after about 10 minutes because I realized, oh, she's not here. She probably will want to watch this with me, so I'll wait when we can watch it together, And that first 10 minutes or however long I was watching it, wow, that was different.
Oh, yeah. You are delving into art house material. I'll just warn you. You're getting into my territory with that film.
Wow, different. And all of the freaking lenses used and all of the different angles used. Not just the lenses, but the angles with the different lenses. And just, it's like, wow, this is different. But I didn't want to stop.
Color. No, I get it. And that's see, and that's that movie. Once you get to a certain point in that movie, boy, it really starts. It starts going crazy for a while. Where even I was sitting here going, "Wow, I haven't watched something like this in a little while." Okay, I was not expecting to see this much of Mark Ruffalo for this much of this film, but okay, good for him, man. He's in good shape. I guess go for it. Who needs clothes if you're in good shape? I guess. And there's a whole section of that, but she's carrying that whole movie, and some of the stuff she's doing is Queen.
That's what everyone said.
It's wild because I know who Emma Stone is. I've seen her in things, but I've never. This sounds really like. It's not like I ever really noticed her. I was like, oh, okay, she's fine. She's good. She's not bad, but I never really noticed her.
I want to say, was she in Cruella? I think that was her.
I think you're right. I'm pretty sure it was. I'm afraid to do it.
Because I was really impressed with Cruella too, and that's not something I would typically care to watch, but she was in that, and I think she crushed that role too. Not like actress of the year or whatever, but it's like, damn, she was pretty good.
Yeah, like I said, I never thought she was bad in anything. But this is something where you see, okay, you have to trust the person that's running things to do these things. This had to be something where she and the director really had an understanding about what they were going to do, because
she's definitely like transformed.
Yeah.
That's the best way I could put it for people that haven't seen it. It's just she's totally transformed.
And
you don't know who the hell that is on the screen.
Yeah, you're right. If you didn't know it was her, you probably wouldn't recognize her for most of the movie, because she's not really made up. She's doing a very strange voice and these awkward mannerisms.
The mannerisms, man, just like I said, I didn't want to turn it off. I was like, boy, this is something, but nothing said, all right, Joe, I'm done with this shit.
Yeah. It wasn't a sepia toned woman collapsing on the floor 20 minutes in where you went, nope, I give up. I had somebody say, really, that's where he gave up? I'm like, I understand that. That is one of those things. Stalker is one of those movies that I never shut up about. And I know that only 2% of anybody who ever hears me talk about it could ever possibly enjoy it. That's fine. I understand. The guy I've been doing the double features with, he had never seen it and he loved it. So I'm like, there it is. That's my success of the decade. I got one person to like this.
That's fair. Yeah. He's in your tribe.
Yeah. And that's
the tribe of two.
But this is the credit to you. You tried to watch it. That's because somebody was, you only gave it. I'm like, whoa, stop. Number one, 20 minutes of that film feels like 2 hours. Even I know that.
It did.
So the fact that you were willing to even try to watch it, I'm like, I'm not going to criticize anybody who at least tries. It's like, I hate vegetables. I hate them. Obviously, look at me, you can tell I hate them. But my wife will tell you, I will try them in different forms once. I have yet to encounter any that make me want to eat them. But I'm like, all right, I'll try it. And then I make a face that looks like I want to throw up, and that's how I feel. And at least nobody's going to be able to say to me, well, you didn't even try it. Right. Can't say that. You can say a lot of things about me. You can't say I didn't try it once. So, and
that's the thing. You suggested that movie and sent the Blu-ray, and I was like, I got to try it. I got to give it an honest try. And I did. And boy,
it's tough.
I should have been in there cleaning the kitchen.
Like I said, I give you credit for trying, because I know people who would hear, "Oh, it's a Russian film with subtitles. Forget it. I'm not even gonna turn it on." Yeah. And I can't force anybody to do that, but the fact that you even tried it I always respect people who have a little bit of stretch in them. If they're just willing to stretch a little bit and see if
Is foreign films just your thing, or is it just want story, or what's the deal?
Okay, so there's a couple aspects to it. One thing
I'm sorry for derailing us, my bad, but I'm interviewing you and shit.
This is delightful that you think that you could ever derail a show that has no rails to start with. That's wonderful. That's about as entertaining to me as when you said, "Oh, I don't know if you've ever been on a PR list." Sure, I've been on lots of them because they want to talk to me. Yeah. Oh, the stalker guy? Yeah, we'll skip it. Thanks. Let's talk to somebody who doesn't get fitted for a straitjacket every other week.
I'll get you on a PR list if you want one. I'll get you on one, and you'll hate me for it.
And I'll get myself off it after my first review. Believe me when I tell you. So the thing is with foreign films specifically is it's that same idea that I grew up on a lot of Americanized content, American point of views, Americanized this and that, different people of different types presented in a very specific way that all kind of comes off the same once you spot it. And foreign films, not all of them, I'm not saying foreign, because it's like the thing with the Criterion Collection where you said, oh, this is for, our artsy type of people.
Yeah, the Criterion Collection is, y'all are upper echelon and with the pinky finger up. And
let me tell you something. That's not really true. I think Criterion's very smart because they mix both in there, because I'm going to tell you right now on the Criterion channel is that Tom Green movie, Freddy Got Fingered, which is one of the most...
What?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. They try to mix it up so that they sucker you. It's kind of that idea that, oh, okay, here's the thing you might recognize, like The Rock with Sean Connery and Nick Cage is a Criterion film. That's a Criterion release. But also Stalker, right? So same company. They do more than people think. But I understand. You look at that first catalog and you see, oh, there's a lot of black and white 30s films. Forget it, I'm out. I get it. So with foreign films, you get these different perspectives on not only what other countries and other people experience, but also a lot of times how America looks to them. And there's some interesting commentary. Yeah. And that's where foreign films can be very, very interesting. They're not always, I mean, I do gravitate. I do like to see what other people see this country as, because I think, and this may be where I piss some people off, I think that maybe we're a little bit high on our own supply in this country sometimes, that, you know, this is the greatest country that's ever been. And, okay, if you're a certain type of person in a certain class of the world, maybe, but not everybody.
Preach.
And that's not the case everywhere else. That's the case here because a lot of people here enjoy being here and they think it's great. But someplace else they could say, well, what about all those people that were in that country before you came and destroyed them? What about those people? Did they have any say in something? Oh, not so much, I guess. And not just one group of people that got destroyed by people in this country because they were like, no, we're going to take this. This is ours now. Huh.
Talk to me, Joe.
Well, and that's where somebody like me, who grew up in a basic middle-class existence with a lot of people who looked like me for the most part for a good portion of my life, I look at this stuff now and I'm like, this is educational for me. And not educational boring, but okay.
Oh, I get
this
it.
This is, you know, and
broadening
also
your horizons, essentially.
Yeah, because the other thing about foreign films, and this is not something, I'll admit, this is something that at times deters me from them, is they're not obsessed with a happy ending. They're not obsessed with the idea that when you get to the end, everybody's smiling and everything worked out. They're very willing to be like, no, you know what? These people tried as hard as they could and they still died. Because the world is a cruel and unyielding place and nature doesn't give a shit and it's going to crush you. Sometimes that's the world. I don't always love that. I don't like a lot of sad stuff, but at the same time, that's life. I mean, it is.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's what I typically, when I see a foreign director or something like that, I'm more willing to give it a chance. It doesn't always work. I mean, there are bad foreign films the same way there are bad American films, but I went through these weird periods of my life. When I was in college, I became an up my own ass, pretentious cinema snob asshole where I was like, I shall only watch a 4-hour film that deals with, like I was somebody, which I wasn't. Dumbass art student. And then I want to say like 10 years ago, I fell into, I want to watch movies that people consider trash, that are garbage. Are they really garbage?
Are they really? Okay.
Yeah. And it's about 50-50. Half the time, I will say, look, I like this movie. Nobody else will. And, only if you hear this description and you're interested, then you'll like it. If you hear this thing and you go, what? Don't bother. It's like, and a lot of these movies, the thing that I like most about B movies and C-grade cinema, the lower end of the spectrum, is you usually know in 10 minutes whether you're in or you're out. That first 10 minutes of the movie, like Poor Things, you know whether this is a movie that's for you, or in your case, 20 minutes with Stalker. You're like, okay, I don't have to sit through an hour before I know I'm miserable. You're going to know right away.
I gave it more than 10 minutes because you're right. Yeah. It is normally 10 minutes, but I said, keep trying. I did.
Yeah. When it's a 3-hour film, 10 minutes is 20 minutes. You have to, bell curve or whatever they call it, grade on a scale. So that's really the appeal to me of a lot of and like that Dutch film. That Dutch film, it actually made me go look up because I honestly didn't know what gender politics in like Dutch gender politics. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know whether it was like the United States or not, or whether women could even vote. I didn't know when women got the right to vote. I didn't know anything. So I actually went and looked. It made me actually do research for a little while so I could better understand what, I mean, don't get me wrong. Some of it was universal. Women get treated like shit. Like I got that right away. I didn't really need to go look that up. I know the way the world is. My wife gets it all the time, and I'm sure yours does as well. Especially your wife, I understand. Like she talks about it, and it's heartbreaking. I mean, it really is just, it's demoralizing. The cruelty of the world, you have to be careful with it, everybody, because it will break you. I understand why so many people have depression and anxiety. Like when you start to actually inform yourself, it's a dangerous thing to mess with. It really is. You got to be careful with it. But that's where I like foreign films, because a lot of times they'll do it creatively this is a really fascinating specific type of thing, especially in countries where they had a lot of communist or really dictatorship ruling type of thing, where there was a lot of tight media control. When they wanted to criticize the government, they couldn't just come out and criticize the government.
Right.
For my large complaints about a lot of things in this country, you do have the freedom in many cases, as long as you're careful about it. You can come out and say, yeah, the president sucks. You can't say you can kill the president, but you can say the president sucks.
Yeah.
A lot of countries, you can't even say the president wore a bad pair of shoes on Monday, or
That's
you're
true.
dead. So these people had to be really creative and interesting in creating these metaphors. So instead of it being that the communists came in and took over their country, aliens landed and instilled all these specific rules, and they're controlling the television. So you know what they're actually talking about, and the way that they got around the dumbasses who were in government was to say, oh yeah, it was Martians. Martians came in and did this,
Okay.
And there's that stuff is...
Okay.
That stuff interests me because that's creativity. That's operating under a very specific set of guidelines and still being able to tell people this is what's happening. Just take the word Martians and change it to communists or whatever. It doesn't have to specific, whoever was in charge. But just change this word and you understand what they're talking about. And a lot of foreign films, in a way that American films often don't, they respect the intelligence of the audience. American films are really bad at that. They're like,
they make it. They assume we're idiots. Is my assessment. Yeah.
Yeah, they explain everything to such a degree that it's like, why don't you give me a pacifier with that explanation? What am I, 4? Where they're like, okay, I don't know if you caught this, but that person who's in the car on the road, they're driving a car. You know what driving is, right? It's where there's a pedal and a wheel and you have to steer. Do you understand driving? Have you ever driven it? Have you seen a car? Do you know what a car is? Let's describe a car for you. Let me draw a picture of a car for you.
Oh, gosh. So true. So true.
That's what appeals to me about a lot of foreign films is they have some creative ways of addressing serious things, and they tend to respect the audience also in that way of not having a really kind of candy-coated ending where somehow even... One of the greatest examples of that is there's a movie called Brazil by Terry Gilliam. I won't spoil anything for anybody, but some people will know that movie right away. It is considered a classic as far as a movie where you have to interpret the ending. And there's 2 ways to look at the ending. One is horrifically depressing and crushing. The other is, no, actually that character is exactly where they want to be and they're going to be happy. And it just depends on how you interpret one specific thing in that ending. And that film is in English. So anybody who's subtitle averse, you can watch that one. That one is actually in English. And it's on Criterion. So that's where I like to get into this stuff because, again, somebody tells me that, I don't know, that Mission Impossible 9 is an action-packed thrill romp. I already knew that. I've seen the other ones. I know Tom Cruise is going to make a movie where he runs around and jumps off a building and parachutes down a ravine and then shoots a guy 15 times and somehow they will impossibly win. I know that. I'm not saying I don't enjoy it, but I know what I'm getting. I understand that setup. Whereas that Dutch feminist film, I knew nothing. I knew nothing. And when you give me that, I'm like, whoa, this is a hell of an ending. Okay. What the hell does that mean? And I have to think about it. There's something else a lot of American films don't make you do. Think a little bit.
I respect that. That's thank you for explaining that. Because you're right. We as Americans, we do sort of go around here and acting like our shit don't stink on a lot of things. And at least what you're saying is these different films present so many perspectives out there.
Yeah, I think that's the benefit of a lot of them. Not all. And like I said, when I say foreign films, I'm usually talking about the kind of art house ones. I'm not talking about the street trashes of the world. Street trash is not presenting anything of any value except they wanted to figure out how to use a Steadicam, and they ran around dirty New York and made people melt because they were drinking tainted alcohol, and so they turned them into neon slime. That's not going to tell you much of anything except that you're a weirdo if you watch it, which I am, and I love it, but it's not for most people. Whereas there's a very good set of 4 films called the Apocalypse Tetralogy that I bought basically sight unseen. I read about them and I was like, whoa. And that's the Martian example. What they did was the Martians came in and they were making people like give blood, and they were tracking them, and they were attaching tags to them and saying, okay, you can only go on television and say this. And of course, what they were actually talking about was at one point, Poland was under, I don't know if it was socialist or communist control. I don't remember what this one was specifically for this period, but one or the other where the media was controlled. So the way they could make a film about that was to say, well, it's Martians. But everything that was happening, the Martians are all people. They're just people with like silver paint on their skin. So it's not hard to be able to say, oh, okay, those stormtroopers that are Martians, that's the real troops in Poland at that time. That's why this director had to make this, because he couldn't come out and say the Polish government is controlling what you see. If he did, his head would have been separated from his neck. Mm-hmm. So he had to make this movie. Which is called War of the Worlds Next Century. Fantastic. Fantastic. Beautiful imagery. Really interesting things to say. An ending you have to interpret. And that's where I'm like, okay, I love to see people be creative in different ways. Even if I don't necessarily get everything, I'm okay with that. I like David Lynch. I'll admit 50% of what he's giving me I don't understand, because only he understands it. That's okay, because nobody else makes movies like that. And that's why you have a movie where he has a little lamb-headed baby that they cut open for some reason because he's terrified of fatherhood. That's what the movie's about. I know that, but I don't know why it's a lamb-headed baby that they cut open. I don't know. And there's a woman in a radiator who sings for some reason, and she's got like chipmunk cheeks with prosthetics. Do I know why that's there? No, because David Lynch is a warped person. But I've never seen anything like it.
Says a warped person.
That's what I'm saying. Right? Takes one to know one. So anyway, thank you for attending Joe's Cinema Corner. Tickets at the door.
Dude, I'm for real. You fascinate me on many levels, man. Besides your art, but the getting to know you through your show and seeing the stuff that you watch and consume and whatnot, I'm like, okay, yeah, this guy's different. And it wasn't a bad thing, but it's like, what makes this guy tick? And you're a pretty fascinating dude.
And I don't know why, because I don't know anybody else in my family who's like this. I wasn't dropped. I didn't eat lead. As far as I know, there were no major incidents with my upbringing. My parents were nice, and I never wanted for anything. And I don't know. I turned out like this somehow, and there is no explanation. I mean, my father was mystified by me, because my father was, like, not to say boring, but straightforward, liked F1 racing, worked on cars, middle-class life, all straight stuff. And then ponytailed, weirdo, into art. What the hell, son, is this? Not following anywhere in his footsteps, and no explanation, because I've never found evidence of anybody else that's like me in my family. I don't even know anybody other males in my family with long hair. I shit you not. I don't even know anybody else in my family who has long hair. That's how far outside of it I am. And I don't know why.
I rock with you to an extent, because there's nobody else in my extended family that's like me either. So yeah, I'm with you.
And that ain't bad, because we're both creative individuals too. And if that is the side product of it, I'm fine with it. I don't mind.
I'm happy. So
right. Well, I know you have work to do. We've been talking for a while now, so I think we'll probably go ahead and wrap
felt
this
like
up.
it, man. It's been good stuff, man.
I could bullshit all day, all night.
I don't know if I actually answered any questions or helped you with anything.
No. Well, look, this show has no purpose. I've said that many times. I think people think it's a bit. It's not a bit. My whole thing is I just like to talk to people when they're interesting to talk to. That's all I need out of it. I really don't care if anybody else is entertained. I am. And it's my show, so I can do what I want. It really is that simple. And I've been very fortunate. I can't think I can't think of anybody who I've had on that I wouldn't have on again. And I know that's not the case for everybody. I guarantee that ain't the case for everybody. So either I've just been really lucky. Well, I have been really lucky. So I don't care. I don't expect people to contribute something. The fact that, like I said, when people take time out of their lives for no compensation, because there is none, there's no secret kickbacks, everybody. Sorry if you thought there were.
I thought there was some. Damn.
No, I give you a movie recommendation. There it is. That's as much as I'm going to be able to give to you.
Aporia it is.
Yes, that's the only thing I can really give you out of this. But I really do. I mean, I think you're a fascinating person to talk to. I appreciate the fact that people don't take my strangeness as a reason to run, because it's not like I don't recognize it.
Twice.
You would not be alone. I mean, you know,
I
like I
at
said,
least thought about it. I had to double check. I was like, all right, yeah, he's all right.
dropping Stalker on somebody is a big test. Because it really is. Because people, if they've never seen it, that's heavy shit, man. Like, you got to be willing to grit your teeth through some of that if it ain't your thing. So it's like one of those things that they say is an acquired taste. It's one of those, okay, like caviar. Disgusting. But for some people, they're like, ooh, this is the best thing. I'll put it on everything. Okay, good. Well, no, but it is. So I don't know where I was going with that, but I'll wind up by saying once again that you can go over to antpruitt.com to buy Ant's photography, jigsaw puzzles, assorted other items. You can get his amazing imagery on a number of different things. And his podcast is over on youtube.com/AntPruitt. It is titled Everyday People Doing Everyday Shit, and he also does generally on Fridays around 10 a.m., kind of a office hours type of thing. That's a really popular thing, I noticed. A lot of people are doing the office hours thing now.
And I'll go ahead and tell you, I didn't really intend on doing it, but a couple people asked me, and I was like, well, okay, I'll give it a try. And I've enjoyed it so far.
Well, I think I saw you did a stream where you were like working on the baseball photos and stuff like that. And I think that's the type of thing that I think a lot of people underestimated the value of for a long time. And now they're starting to figure out that, you know, you can read and watch tutorials, but there is a real benefit and a real value if somebody's actually doing it live, and you can bring up questions and make them, because there was something where you were working on the promo video for the show, and I said, make this word bigger for emphasis.
Oh yeah, right. And it worked. That's where there's a dynamic to the live thing. Mm-hmm. That, yeah, you can watch a video after the fact and somebody can sit there and go through. And for some people, that is their preferred way of learning. That's the other thing too, is different people learn differently. So for some people, they want that order. They want to know, okay, here's the chapter list, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Got it. I'm done. I'm out. But other people want that ebb and flow. My intent is just, all right, I'm here. If you got questions, ask. If I got an answer, I'll give it to you. If I have an opinion, I'll give it to you if you ask for it. And, you know, that's it. It's just a way of attempting to give back is about how I can explain it.
And I also like the fact
I'm not as jovial and loquacious as you are. So so it's not natural for me to do that type of stuff, you know. So, but I said I want to try, and doing it Fridays 10 a.m. Pacific. That's the start for me.
Yeah, like I said, I've enjoyed them. I think people who show up have enjoyed them. I at first, I will admit, didn't really get the idea that when people started first doing it, I went, office out. What? So they're just sitting there? They're sitting there waiting for people to say something to them? What the hell good is that?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
But it is.
I'm going to sit
fun.
here and I'm going to wait, because I'm not leading the conversation. Because if I'm going to lead the conversation, I will turn the live stream off and just hit record. Right. You know?
Generally what I do most of the time. So those are Fridays at 10. Generally over on the YouTube channel. And did I say the name of the podcast? Did I say Everyday People Doing Everyday? Did I say that?
Yeah, you did. You got that. Thank you very much. antpruitt.com/podcast or youtube.com/antpruitt.
And there will be links in the show notes in case I completely butchered it with my inability to speak words correctly.
I've seen him do it, folks.
I have done it. I'm pretty bad about promoting a lot of things, but I generally cover the guests and make sure their stuff is there. So, because that's important. Like I said, that's the least and literally the least and the most that I can offer when people come on my show is to at least get the friggin' show notes right.
Most.
That's the least and the most, all in one. See, I'm a full service shop, man. I cover it all. So, Ant, thanks so much for doing this, man. This was great, and I had a lot of fun talking as usual. And yeah,
Likewise,
so as a wrap up, Three Body Problem, pretty good, because normally I do a review at the end of the show and I spoil the whole thing. I wouldn't do that to you. So I will say for people, if you gave up on the book, which I did, I didn't even really start it. The show is they clearly put money into it. They've got some really good people in it, and I think it functions very well. I just hope they don't give up on it.
Right?
Yeah, it's a Netflix project.
Okay, all right.
Just hope they don't bail on it. But since it's gotten good reviews, I think it's doing well. It seems to have been well received, because that's my one caveat on recommending almost anything streaming now is they might just never have a second season. And I hate setting people up for that, because that drives me up a wall when that happens.
I'm looking forward to Silo season 2.
Oh, yeah. Well, Severance, too. Severance was great. Did you watch Severance?
Yeah, I did. And boy, Severance was out there too.
Yeah, isn't it?
It was
My
out there
wife
too.
liked it, and I was surprised because she's not as into the weird. I have to push her into a lot of stuff.
It took me a minute, but I got through it. I got through the whole season.
Oh, I really liked Severance a lot. I thought that was.
I like the music, the theme song.
Yeah, the
piano.
theme song, the look. There was a lot of interesting stuff in the visuals. We won't go on about this for another 40 minutes, but there was a lot about Severance that I thought was. Yeah. For Apple was different and interesting and was pushing some edges that I was surprised, because they seem to be pretty conservative in the specific term, not in the political term, but they seem to be hesitant to go too far on certain things, but I think they're stretching. So, and Severance was kind of one of the first examples where I went, oh, wow, this is a criticism of some interesting things, and Apple isn't having a problem with that. Okay. I'll hang with this. So. On that note, everybody, we're going to get out of here because Ant's got work to do, real work to do that will actually get him some money, which is not this. So
hopefully it gets some money.
I hope it gets some money. So once again, Ant, thanks so much for doing this. And
My
check
pleasure.
the links for Ant's stuff in the show notes. And go enjoy your weekend, everybody. Watch something you enjoy. Good, bad, in between. Just go have a good weekend. All right, take care, everybody. We'll talk to you next week. Visit OzoneNightmare.com to subscribe to new episodes, browse through our back catalog, or to find links to support the show. Follow @OzoneNightmare on Twitter for the latest episode postings and other show information. If 280 characters just isn't enough, you can always email us, theozonenightmare@gmail.com. The opening theme for the show is provided by Heartbeat Hero. The closing theme is provided by Ogre. Please visit and support these artists using the links in the show notes for each episode.